Hey everyone, welcome back to Encrypt Coding. My name is Sylvester, and today we will be continuing on with object-oriented programming. This will be part 3 and it will be relatively short as we won't be covering that much in this video. So let's go to the next slide. So we'll have a quick recap of what was discussed in the last video. So object-oriented programming, what is it? It's a programming paradigm in which real-life entities are represented as objects. And object-oriented programming is the mainstream form of programming these days. We have Java, which is the one we are giving tutorials right now, and we have Python, C++, Ruby, many different programming languages. And one main aspect about this is that classes are the blueprints of objects, and the objects are representations of real life entities. Now there are multiple features of object oriented programming, of which they are inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. We discussed what had happened previously, so if you haven't watched that video and you're not understanding what's happening right now, I recommend that you watch that video before and then move on to this one. So what exactly are we going to do in this video? Well, we will be talking about how to declare an object in Java. As you know, since Java is an object-oriented programming language, it's completely surrounded by such elements such as objects, classes, multi-level variables, functions, all these sort of stuff. So it's extremely important to know what exactly is an object and how to declare it in Java. So an object is an instance of a class that represents a real-life entity. It contains variables, data, and methods, which represents its attributes and behaviors. So we could have a class dog, which could have multiple attributes and behaviors, such as being a black and white Dalmatian. And certain behaviors could be, it could bark, it could whine, it could ask for food, it eats, drinks, lots of different things. It's quite similar in object-oriented programming. So instead of having an animal, we would have a class, and within a class we would have variables. So the dogs, the Dalmatian's white and a black fur could be the variables. Then the data could be whatever helps the dog function, and the methods of functions could be the dog barking or whining or eating food, drinking, anything. So how do we declare this object? As we have over here, this is the syntax. The class name. So we take the name of the class that we want to declare an object of. Then we follow it with the object name. This object name can be anything. It could be obj, it could be whatever you want to call it. I'll show you an example in a few moments. Next we have the equal to sign, then new. New is a keyword which is used to allocate memory in the RAM. As all objects have specific areas in which they are actually stored within the memory. And after new, we have the class name again, which we'll be going on to why we have the class name repeated, and then the parentheses followed by the semicolon. You forget the semicolon and, well, lots of problems will appear. So let's move on to the BlueJ, which is the IDE we'll be using today. So we have a class over here, class blueprints. I've called it blueprint just so that you understand which one's the blueprint and which one will be creating an object. One thing about objects is that you can have an object in a completely separate class. It doesn't matter, as the object isn't stored within the class but rather in a separate memory. So as we have over here, the class name over here is blueprint, and we have a function here. We have an object, and this is how we declare it. We have the name, anything. I could name this obj, I could name this key, I could name this object, I could name this anything. So I'll just leave it as obj for simplicity. Then we have new equal to new blueprint parenthesis and the semicolon. Alright, now let's return back to the PowerPoint, as we'll be talking about invoking methods from other classes. In Java, you have the option to invoke a method, which is to call it. So for example, if you have a method which prints hello world, you don't necessarily have to create a system.out.println hello world in every single class. All you need is a single class containing the function, and we can just call that same method from a different class. But one thing is that we cannot call it in all circumstances. So I will show you in which circumstances invoking methods from other classes are possible. So we have two methods. Invoking using the class name, which doesn't necessarily always work, as there are some situations where it's not possible, and we'll be delving into this in a future video. And next we have invoking using object declaration, which is using the syntax for the object declaration and using that to call the method within the class. As we know that since the class is a blueprint of the object holds the same attributes that the class code contains. Of course, there are some situations in which a particular function is universal to all objects created from it, and that is known as the static keyword, but that's for a future video. Alright, so let's return back to BlueJ, where I'll show you how exactly we can call a function. So in this blueprint function we have over here, we have a function which is public void. Why do we have void? Because we aren't accepting anything, nor are we returning anything. So we can leave it as void. There are no parameters since we aren't accepting anything, so we can leave it at this. Now you might notice that we don't have static. Well, I could have static and it would still work perfectly, as you can see over here. However, if I remove static, look at that. We don't have void print. So we have to create a new object. Now this is only available within BlueJ. In other IDEs, such sort of objects over here, like these physical UI, is not actually possible. So we'd have to do it using the code. Anyways, once you've created this object, there we go, hello world. So let's delete that. Alright, so we want to print something inside this object class. Now don't confuse this with an actual object. This is just the name of the class. So all we need to do is call the class name, which is blueprint, and then the method name, which was print. And we compile that. Add a semicolon. Remember, if you forget a semicolon, the code won't run. Alright. 1 second. Compile. And there we go. Hello world. Remember, I'm running this from the object class and it's still running. So this is one application of object-oriented programming. It's specifically inheritance, in which a class attains the properties of another class. Alright, now this is calling by a class name. However, as you saw previously, I had to put static in here. But what if I didn't want that? Well, I'd have to create an object. So if we have over here, sorry, that was the wrong method. I meant to remove the static from here. So if we wanted that, then we'd have to create an object, and then we take the object name and follow it with the method. And see, even if there's no static here, as we saw an error previously by just directly calling the class, well, now if we create an object, we do not need that. We just need to use the object name and the method. And if I compile and run it, hello world. So that's the end of this video, where I'll just give a quick recap of what we have done in this video. We talked about what an object is, how it is declared, and also the applications of this declaration in certain situations. And remember to like and subscribe to our channel if you like our content. Thank you all for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.